Hi, everybody. This week we're going to be working on making a text adventure game. A text adventure game is basically like a choose your own adventure game. And here we've got one that I've made, and yours is going to work off of this same template. Um, this is a science fiction game that I've made, and you can see that each screen in the game will be like a page of a choose your own adventure book, and it'll say some of the story and then give you a choice at the end of the text. On this screen here, it's giving me two choices. At the end of the text, it's saying, looking through a green tinted carbon composite glass of cryogenic chambers, you observe passengers who look just as frozen as they always do. So basically, you're on a spaceship, and this is part of the way into the story. It doesn't really matter what the story is. What's important is at the end of the text, it says, would you like to look at the information console? Press C. Or investigate the smell? Press S. Okay, so you get two choices at the end of the screen. Let's see, if I hit C, then it's going to go to the console. You try to read the information console. Okay, the important thing for you to understand here, and I'm going to share this game with you so that you can actually pull the file onto your computer, and then all you have to do to play the file is double click on the scene asset for main. So let me show you how to do that. Close this. So I'll share the file as Starseed, and here it is right here. Double click to open that up. Inside of the assets, there's the Starseed scene in Unity. You just double click on that, and that will open up the actual game, and you just hit play. And you can play through the game yourself to get a good feel for what the game is like, okay? Once you've done that, then you're going to go ahead and make your own game. So let me show you how to do that. All right, I've also shared, in addition to the game, I've shared with you this Google slide presentation, which will explain how to make the game. The first thing that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to write the story, okay? And this is a graphic organizer. This is not for the game that I made. This is for a different game, and that you are escaping from a cell, like a prison cell, that's online. But you're going to use a similar graphic organizer to this to create the structure of your game. So in this game, you can see that the first state that you're in, or the first page of your story, is called cell, right? And then you get three choices from the cell. And victory in this game would be escaping from the cell, which says freedom over here. So essentially, you need to create a bubble chart, and you need to decide what the pages in your story are going to be. So this would be a 8-page story, right? One page for each of the circles on this diagram. And then the arrows represent choices that you have and how you move through the different pages of your game. So in this one, you would get to choose from one of these three states here. So in the cell there, you have a sheet on your bed in the cell. There's a mirror in the cell, and then there's the lock of the door, and you get the choice of which one of those you want to investigate. So if you look at the map, if you choose to investigate the sheet, it'll read some text about the sheet, and then your only option will be to return back to the original state that you were in. Okay, same thing with the lock. You won't be able to unlock it. But if you go to the mirror, you'll have the option of taking the mirror. See how it says take here? And you can go to this state, which means you've advanced in the game. See, once you get to here, you can't go back. So once you get to the cell mirror, then you can investigate the sheets again, but that's just going to cause you to return to this second mirror state. And then if you investigate the lock from the second mirror state, it will give you the option of opening the lock and winning the game to get to freedom. Okay, so I used a similar kind of a graphic organizer to create my game, and then I went ahead and wrote a story. And see here, I've just got a letter in this rough draft here, a letter for each story, for each page of the story, rather. Okay, so this is just the exact same text that appears on the screen in the game that we just read. So you try to read the information console. If you this is the page we were on just a minute ago, right here. Looking through the green tinted carbon composite glass. Remember that? Okay, so you need to write just a brief sort of 9-page story. It's not 9 actual pages. It might be as simple as 9 short paragraphs. If you write a very, very simple story, you know, then you don't have to write as much. My story is a little bit more complex, but it's still not that long. You can see that I've got 9 pages in mine. So you're going to write your brief story. And then on here, what I didn't include was the letters that you're going to get to use to make the various choices that you have. But see, like here at the end of it, it asks a question at the end of each of the short part of the story. Would you like to look at the information console or investigate the smell? So that talks about the 2 states. In the game, you would actually add the information to it. So would you like to look at the information on the console? And then you would put in press C, right? Or investigate the smell. Press S. Okay, you would add this detail to it when you actually take the text and put it into your game, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. Okay, so once you have this story both outlined and then written, then you're ready to get to work on your actual game, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Okay, so now you're ready to make the game. You've already written a graphic organizer saying, you know, I'm going to have this many different pages in my text adventure, or this many different sort of opportunities for players to read text and make choices. Then you'll write those actual pages out. It's just like a choose your own adventure book. You know, so you'll have your text and then your choices at the end of each piece of text. It's a good idea if you also go ahead and figure out which buttons you're going to use to make the choices. You know, usually it's a letter that sort of corresponds with the choice. So here, I look at the console, which starts with a C, and then I have the choice B pressing the letter C. It's good. The more you have planned out, the easier it's going to be for you. Okay, so then you'll click down on Unity, and of course that's going to open up to a new project, and we'll call it Text Adventures, what I'm going to call this anyway, and I don't need to write in all caps. Text Adventure. So I'm going to make it a 2D game, and I don't need Unity Analytics. And so here we go. Create project. Wait for it. You can see I'm just making it on my desktop here. Give Unity a second to load up. Okay, here you go. So, first thing you're going to do is you're going to create a game object, and you're going to call that game, or rather, that game object is going to be a user interface object. So you'll click on game object, then hover over UI, and then click on text. And what Unity is going to do is create something called the canvas. And if you click on canvas in your hierarchy over here, and you go over to your main menu and hover over your scene view and hit F, then that'll zoom out so you can see the entire canvas object, which is always the way it works in Unity. If you want to look at a particular object, click on it in the hierarchy, then hover over the scene view and hit F. So the canvas is really nothingness right now, but it's an area where user interface items like buttons or scoreboards or this text that you're working on right now will show up. And here's the text itself. You know, you can see it shows up pretty small. So if I click on text and then hover over the scene view and hit F, it'll zoom in on the text. And what it says right now is new text. And if you look over here, That's what it says in the canvas renderer area, or rather the text or script area right here. Okay, and you can see the font that it's in and the font size right there. Okay, so right now you don't have any control over what that text says, so you're going to need to add a script to the text, which will ultimately control it. So you're just going to go over to your assets window here, and you're going to click create, and you're going to create a C# script. Okay, and I'm going to call that text controller. Okay, so now I've got that script, and so now I have a canvas created, I have a text item created, and I have a script. I'm going to drag this script and drop it on the text item over here. So I had text selected in my hierarchy, and when it was, I just went ahead and grabbed this script. It doesn't have anything on it yet, by the way, but it will. We're going to get that going in just a second, and I'll explain to you the components of the script. And you're going to just drag and drop that on your new text. Now, I'm going to click on Canvas again and get to that view of it, and click on text, and I'm going to make text fit better on my screen. So go over here, let's see if I zoom in, I can see it a little better. I'm going to make text a little bit bigger so that I'll be able to see it when I zoom back out. Click on Canvas again. This is just kind of how I do it. There we go. Click on text, and now see we can see it a little better. And I'm going to make text sort of fill up the canvas a little bit better. Okay, so right now if I hit play, you can see a little itty bitty text right here, and I've got a blue background. So I'll hit play again, and the reason I have a blue background is if I click on camera, the background is set to this blue color, but I want to make it a solid color. Different versions of Unity, you might get a different view there. I'm going to click a solid color, and then I'm going to choose actually white as my solid color for this project. Okay, you could pick whatever color works best for you. Make sure it also corresponds well. If you pick a white background, you don't want to have white letters, or if you pick a black background, you don't want to have black letters. So I'm going to click like that and close that out, and now watch if I hit play, got a white background. Okay, so from here, I'm going to click on text again. I'm going to make my letters a little bit bigger. So font size, I'm going to go up to, let's say, 42. I'll triple it. Okay, so I'm going to go 42. Click off of that, hit play. Okay, now my letters are bigger and easier to read. Okay, I'd like you to put some sort of a heading on your document. You would probably use Adobe Illustrator to make that heading for your game. When you played Starseed, it was that thing that said Starseed. For you guys, I'm going to allow you to just use images as sort of the header at the top of your page, and they need to be PNG files, because PNG files have transparency. So let me show you how you're going to do that, obtain that in just a second here. First, I'm going to go ahead and save this scene though. So I'm going to go File, Save Scene. And I'll just say main, and it's saving it inside of the assets folder here in Unity, and I'll hit save, and now that scene has shown up here, so I'm in good shape. And so now let's take a look at how to get the PNG image you're going to use as the header for your document. You're going to now find a PNG asset that you can use as sort of the title of your text adventure game. So I'm going to go over to a web browser using Chrome. So here we're going to do an image search. So I'll click on images, and inside of this, since I'm just doing a generic sort of a template thing that you can look at, I'm calling it text adventure. I'm just going to use a picture of a book because I'm calling it text adventure and books have text. So I'm going to click on book. right? But then it's just going to give me all kinds of different books, and I don't know if they're ping files. So I'm going to go ahead and put in book PNG and hit enter. Aha, okay, now, so hopefully these are all pings. One of the ways you can tell if something is a ping is by it having this checkerboard kind of a background. That usually denotes transparency. I'm going to click on this one and see what I get. And look, it does have the checkerboard behind it. And this is also open book ping image. Looks like this is a ping. I'm going to go view image. And there it is. And I'm going to say save image as desktop, and we'll just call it book image. I'm going to put that on my desktop for now, and see portable network graphics image. Right there, it's telling me that it's a ping. That's what PNG stands for. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And now I've got that image on my desktop, and I'm going to shrink this down. And now I want to get to where I can see both my Unity asset panel here and a little bit of my desktop where that image is at. I'm going to take that image, and I'm just going to drag and drop it into my assets. Okay, so now I have the book image inside of my Unity file, the folder that will have all of my assets in it. So I'm going to go ahead and expand back to full screen. And what I want to do now is add in this image onto my desktop. So I'm going to go up to File, or rather Game Object, and UI. So once again, we're working with user interface objects for this text adventure. And it's a user interface, and then we hover over UI. This drop-down menu shows up, and we click on Image. Okay, so now we have the image here. I'll go over to and hover over it. And when image is selected in your hierarchy, over here in your inspector, you have different qualities about it. The size of it, which is width and height here, position, where it's located on the screen, etc. For now, the important thing we want to do here is we're going to go to Source Image. And we're going to click this little target next to it. And right here, Book Image. Click on that, and now that is made that image use the asset that you just imported in. And then I'm going to make it a little wider before I even drop back to look at the canvas in its entirety. I'm going to click on Canvas, go back over here and hit F, and so now I can see the image a little better. And I'm going to just make it fit the size of the canvas that I'm using, just using these little handles that are on it. And then I'm just going to move it up to the top of the page. Okay, now in the text adventure example that I had, I created my own ping with the title. This isn't an Adobe Illustrator class, which is really where you would create that ping at. So I'm just going to let you use a ping image to put at the top of your page. So now if you look, I've got this book here, and I've got my text there, and if I hit play, there we go. Okay, so we're off and running. Now, the problem that we have now is that the text in the story just says whatever is in this text box here. And we need to start controlling that with the script. We've already added our text controller script to the text object, but we need to actually do some scripting to make this text say and behave the way we want it to. So that's what we're going to do next. Okay, so now we're going to do some C# scripting to control the text in your text adventure game. So what you're going to want to do is go down to the Assets panel and double click on the file you've already created. It's the C# script called Text Controller. You'll double click on that and then just wait a minute while your computer boots up MonoDevelop. Most of your computers should be set to use MonoDevelop as the standard text editor for any files that you're doing. Some of you that are working on PCs, though, might have Windows Visual Studio set up. And so let me show you how to switch that if you don't. So this is Mono Develop. So when you double click it, everything should open up like this. And as long as you named the file text controller, it should read this way up where it says public class text controller, and then has the semicolon. So even in Visual Studio, it should read that way because a script is a script, okay? But if it doesn't say Mono Develop up here and it doesn't have the white background, then you're probably using Visual Studio. So to fix that, just go back over to Unity, click on File, or let's see, Unity Preferences. Click on Preferences, External Tools, and then External Script Editor. See, mine is set as Internal, which is Mono Develop. But if yours is set as Visual Studio, just click on this box and click on Mono Develop and it'll switch it back over, okay? So in here, what we're gonna have to do now is add the script that will control the text. Right here is a copy of the entire script that you're gonna use. And it looks like this. But that doesn't really tell you very much. So I've also shared with you a slide presentation that the same slide presentation that had the visual map of the story that you wrote, and the slides go through each part of the script. Okay, so your script should automatically start off with these 3 lines right here: using Unity Engine UI, and using system collections. That should already be in there. So let's take a look at the script, and yep, there it is. Okay, so you probably won't have to type that in. Actually, we want to look at Mono Develop. So here it is right here. It's just starting off with these 2. So let's take a look at whether or not we need to add in using system collections. Sometimes as the version of the game or the engine moves forward, you kind of change some of these beginnings of the script. So we're going to leave this off and see if Unity forces us to put it in later. So here are the first 3 lines. Then the next line is going to be public class text controller. That should be filled in already as well. Essentially, the class is named the same as your script, and Unity will do that for you. So back over here to our script, and I'm going to move this over so it's closer to our slide presentation, so it's easier for us to go back and forth from it. Okay, and right here we've got our start function. Start function is something that's created by Unity, and it is a script that will run at the beginning of each scene, and it will run just one time. So for our start function in this game, it's just going to set the state to the first state in your state machine. So that state's called cell in the cell game that we were looking at. So here it corresponds to this circle right here that's called cell, and all that's going to do is tell the game that it's going to start off in that cell, in that state. And let's see, where's a copy of the script? There it is. So this is the completed script for the Starseed game that I shared with you. And so in this one, the first state is called wake. And let's see, right here it says my state equals states wake. So it should be scripted that way. Okay. Then moving on from there, we're going to have void update print my state if my state equals state cell, state is cell. Okay, so that is the beginning of an if else if loop that is in the script, and that essentially controls the entirety of the game. What it's saying is each of those circles or ways that the computer can be in the game is controlled by a state with a name. Okay, and it starts off and it says if my state equals state cell, go to the state of cell, run that function, do what the commands inside of that function tell you to do. And if the state is not cell, it says then go to this one, sheets 0. If it's not that, go to sheets 1, and it goes through every possible state. So the program is just going to cycle through these states and find the one that it's supposed to be in and do that. Okay. And then it needs an explanation of what to do in that state once it gets there. And so right here, each state is going to be coded just like this. So in green is the actual text of the game that's going to read in front of you on the screen. And then in blue are the buttons that you're going to push for your choices. Everything in black is going to be exactly the way that it is in this slide presentation. The stuff that is colored are the things that you're going to have to change based on the way that your game runs. Okay, so this slideshow essentially teaches you how to do every single thing, and you can pretty much just copy and paste. Okay, but obviously you're going to have to change all of the stuff that's in color based on the map that you created for your game, and the text is going to need to read the way that the text for your game reads. Okay, so we're going to go into some more detail about how you can code through this in just a minute, but honestly you should be able to make the entire thing just from this reference script, your states that you've already mapped out in your bubble map, and the script that you've written out. And then the slide presentation goes through each part of the script itself. Okay, so we're back and you're going to start developing the actual script, and I'm just going to show you how this is going to work in my basic example. So if I double click on the script and go over to Mono Develop, here you can see the base script that's going to pop up when you create the C# script and open it with Mono Develop. Here is the script for the Starseed game that was my example game, and I'm just going to control A and Control C to copy that entire script. And I'm going to go back over to Mono Develop, Control A to select the entire thing, and then Control V to paste in that script over top of it. Okay, so now this is my example script coded properly, and I'll go File and Save to save that script. So now the script inside of Unity, if we go back over there, is now the same as it was for the other game. Now, of course, that's a whole different game, and so you're going to want your text and other examples to be different in your game so that it actually is written from the script that I had you create. But if I hit play now, it's still not working, and let's show you why. So what I need to do is select text over here, and you'll see the script right here is asking what object fills this variable text, the public variable that you created inside of your C# script. So what you need to do is go over to your hierarchy and select text and drag it down to here and drop it inside of that window. And you'll see that now under the text object selected in your hierarchy, where it shows up in your inspector, you go down to the script section, and there'll be the variable text, which is created by the public variable in your code, and you need to make sure that text has been dropped into this box. So now when I hit play, the script controls the text that shows up in the user interface, and now you can play the game. Okay? That's how you're going to create your basic script for this inside of Unity. So it's important that you can follow through or follow along with your script and see what's going. All right, so let's just carefully break down what's going on inside of this script. Here it is inside of Mono Develop. And we've looked at some of this stuff, but I went ahead and updated the slide presentation so it corresponds exactly with the Starseed game that I'm sharing with you. You can just go inside of the Starseed game itself, double click on that, go inside of Assets, and go to, let's see, textcontroller.cs. You can open that up and copy it and change it to make your game. It's probably the easiest way for you to do it. So that script is right here. That's it in its entirety. And it's basically set up with this logic, okay? But let's start at the beginning. When you open up that script, when you create it and open it up out of Unity, probably these two lines are going to be in there. I'm not sure that Unity calls system collections anymore at the beginning. With the new 5.3, I think is the version we're up to. I'm leaving that in there because I'm not positive about that yet. And it won't break it if you include this in your script. Okay, so that's just the very first thing in the game. It's right here, see? Okay, and then the next thing right here, public class, it just, this is declaring the name of the script, and there you go right here, mono behavior, public text, text, okay? So this is telling that it's using the public variable text, and that is being filled in with your game object text, okay? So that's going to need to be at the beginning of your script also. Once you've gone that, you're going to go down to here, which is called enumerating your states. Oops. This is called enumerating your states right here. So private enum states, and then you're going to name each one, and you're going to create a private state that is called my state, okay? And that's separated from these enumerated states, and that's right here in the script. So first I enumerate my states. So each state that is in this map, okay, is going to be enumerated, right? So the name of each state that your computer can be in, or the game can be in, is got a name, and that name has to be enumerated right here, okay? Each state basically stands for a piece of text, okay, which would maybe be a page. If this were on paper, a choose your own adventure game, okay, each state would have text that goes with it, right? And it would also have a choice. So this is actually written with the choice included. So it would be, you know, the action of the page would be written out, and then it would ask you what you want to do next and tell you which button to hit to go to the next state in the game. Now, some game, you know, if it was on paper, it would say turn to this page, okay? So we are in a video game, so instead of going to a page, you're just going to say press this button, and you will have made this choice, okay? So those pieces of text are mapped out right here. And so essentially, you wake up and you can only hit X, and that brings you to the state of begin. There'll be text in the state of begin, and it will give you three choices. Hit the letter P, S, or C to make those choices. And here the map shows you if you hit P, you're going to go to this state. From the state passengers, you can only go to two other states. You can either go to console or drink, and you'll hit C or S to do that. All right? From the state of console, you would also have the choice of going to passengers or to drink. From drink, you can only go to one state. You hit X and you go to the galley. Okay? And so here this map denotes all of that stuff. Okay? So now you've enumerated your states and you've given them all names, and you've said that you're going to start that there's also a private state called my state. In the start function, which only runs once at the beginning of the game, you're going to put in my state equals states wake. So that tells the game at the beginning of each game, you're going to go to the wake state, this one right here. That means the game is beginning. You go to that state, all right? So here it is in the script telling you that information, okay? Then after that, you're going to have an update function. The update function runs continuously inside of the game. So continuously in the game, this function right here is running, okay? And that is laid out for you. Rather, actually, this is not the, this is my update function. So you're going to say print my state in the void update. So let's see, right here. So print my state, and that's telling it to print out the information that is instructed to do so in my state. And then this sort of has the beginning, this line right here in this slideshow is the same as this line right here. So don't do that twice. I've got them both because I wanted to show you sort of this beginning of after the void update that you're going to start with the if my state equals state machine, how one runs into the next. But just remember, it's you write these two lines here, you type those in, and then you're going to start here with the entire if else if loop. And, you know, of course, here it is. It's all right here in the code. And what that essentially is saying is if you're in this state right here, if you're in wake, then do that. If not, or else if you're not in that, then you're in begin. If you're in begin, do this. Or else if you're not in begin, you're in this. It's just cycling through the states that you have enumerated at the beginning of the text. And it's going to say, it's going to cycle through these states right here. And it's going to say, you know, once you find the state that you're actually in, do that. Okay, so that's how the state machine works in terms of the if else if statement. Okay, so then it's going to say, this is where it says do that. So if your state equals this state, then do this. Okay, but this doesn't tell it what this is, and that gets explained here. All right, so begin. So if you're in this begin state, then you're going to print out this text and you're going to receive these inputs. You'll make these 3 buttons optional input buttons, and this is what you do if those buttons get inputted. So here is the if else loop in your script, and then down here the instructions for each state are clearly laid out. Okay, so let me go see, put that back in. Okay, so here it is. The begin state works like this. There's the wake state where you just get the 1 button X to continue, but then after that, in the begin state, you get 3 choices. So that just corresponds right here. The wake state, you only get 1 choice. The begin state, you get 3 choices. And this is how this gets coded out. So this is telling it the text to print, and this is telling it the buttons that it can receive. If the player pushes the button P, then go to this state. Or else, if they press the button C, go to this state. Or else, if they press down the button S, go to this state. And the syntax is just, you know, C# syntax. So the way that you can communicate with C#, what I just said in English, is it understands things written this way, with the syntax being exactly the way it is, and the parentheses need to contain each thing. So this code has to be exactly as it is here. If you're getting errors, it is most likely that you are skipping over some small piece of syntax. So you have to pay a lot of attention to the way that I've got this done here, because this is your first C# assignment. You're not going to learn to be a perfect coder yet. What you need to do is have attention to detail and be able to use my example to make sure that your code works exactly. Remember that everything's going to be exactly the same except for the stuff that is colored in. Anything that's black is going to be exactly the way it is on these slides. If it's in a different color, then that means that you need to put in something that is relative to your game. So here, my state equals states wake. For yours, the first state might not be called wake, so you need to call it whatever the first state of your game is. Okay, and then inside of the wake state, you need to make sure that the text is the text that you wrote when you wrote your wake function. So here's the text that I wrote, but you're going to write something different. So inside of wake for yours, it's going to say different. Now, in the new Unity, I don't know if you're going to need to divide your text up the way I have here. Okay, when you do, when you give it the commands, let's see. Well, I don't have Unity open right now, but when you do truncate, which is one of the commands inside of Unity, that may allow your paragraphs to format properly without doing this. But if things aren't formatting, if things are running over and not formatting properly, then you're going to need to break your text up into smaller chunks surrounded by the quotation marks like I've done here, and put a plus sign between each chunk to make it fit in properly. Okay? So this basically breaks down the entirety of the script and should run the way you want it to. If you have questions, make sure you email me right away and give me specific questions as to what's going on with your script and why it's not working. And I should get back to you right away about that. But the biggest thing is use the examples I've given you and pay a lot of attention to detail. Okay, good luck, and I look forward to seeing your work.